My name is Joseph Callahan, and we're in the city of Monrovia, California, at KGEM TV Studios. This is the Library of Congress Veteran History Project. It is being conducted through the Monrovia Public Library, and today it is my pleasure to interview a veteran, Marcia Diane Johnson Mccoy, who was born Marcia Diane Johnson on April 22, 1953 in Detroit, Michigan. Marcia, tell us about each of your parents' first, last name, and what they did.
Okay, my mother, Ann Lucille Johnson, she's a housewife, and my dad, Thomas Henry Johnson, he was a carpenter.
All right. And in addition to you, by the way, I almost forgot to do this. In addition to you and myself in the room today, we have our video camera person, Anthony Clay, and our volunteer leader from the library, Mabel Cross, present in the room. Now, you also have siblings. Could you tell me a little bit about your siblings as well?
Yes, I had three brothers. Thomas Henry, Ray Johnson, and Dennis Johnson. And Dennis was the only one of the group to go into the service other than myself, and he went into the National Guard. And he was trained, and shortly after his training, he went to Saudi Arabia.
Oh, right.
So, yeah. And then I have four sisters, and I have Darlene, Wanda, Betty, and Bernita's the baby.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what kind of jobs do each of them have? I know it's quite a family.
Okay, yes. Let's try to stay on course. Okay, Darlene, she worked at a children's center as a receptionist. Wanda works at the Henry Ford Hospital, which is a large facility doing billing. And Betty worked at one of the casinos as a cook. And my baby sister, Vernita, works for Intel. She's a controller. She's very bossy. Okay, and then we have Thomas. He's a mechanic. Ray, he's a truck driver. He worked mostly driving back and forth. Was it cross-country driving?
Yes.
And then Dennis, he worked at a warehouse here in California.
I see. Now, you also have an uncle who is in the Navy, is that correct? Tell us a little bit about him and how he influenced your decision to go that way.
Uncle Roger, and he was in the military and became a chief petty officer. He's a yeoman, and he showed me around the base. He would take me out to the base on a weekend and show me around and just give me a feel for what military life was about. And he also took me down to the recruiting station when I showed an interest in joining service. We went to the Navy facility and talked to the recruiters there. We went to the Air Force also. Now, the Air Force wanted 4 years, and out of their list of careers, they had one that was talking about being a dietitian, and I thought that, well, that's the one that suited me. Okay, and then we went to the Navy, and the Navy had a list of careers also, and out of their list, I landed on dental. I thought dental was interesting, so that's the one that I checked, and as you will see, that's the one that I stayed with.
Well, that's great. Now, so your uncle did influence you a bit, and
did.
that was great that he
Yes,
showed you
it
around. Now, tell us the name of the high school you went to and what it was like growing up in Detroit, Michigan.
Well, I went to Cass Technical High School, which was in downtown Detroit. In order to get to Cass from where I lived, I had to catch 2 buses. So it wasn't close, and it was like you had to sign up to go to Cass if your grades were good enough to go, and then you had to, it was like a lottery thing. Not a lottery thing, but everybody couldn't go. Anyway, so I was honored to go to school down there and glad to catch those 2 buses every day back and forth. And we walked most places when I was growing up in Detroit.
Yes.
And whether it was a long walk or not, you just walked with a group of friends and just talked and walked. So,
Now, as you were in high school, that was during the Vietnam War. Do you recall seeing service people in Detroit at that time, or any demonstrations about anti-war or pro-war demonstrations going on?
I don't really remember that. The only military people that I remember seeing is the ones that were on the base when I would go out with my uncle and take those trips on the weekend, and he would just show me around. So all I just stuck in my head was what they were doing.
I see. All right, so you ultimately decided to enlist in the Navy because you only wanted a limited commitment. You didn't want the 4-year commitment.
Right.
So you enlisted on September 16th, 1971, and then, let's see here, date of, actually the date of your enlistment is, I think, August 19th, 1970. No, that's when you got out. You got out August 18th, 1976, and you enlisted in the reserves on August 19th, 1976. Right. So that gives you 5 years, 2 months, and 25 days of active duty, which is interesting. Now, you put in more than the 3 years original commitment, so you re-enlisted.
Right, I re-enlisted.
What made you do that?
Well, at the time of enlistment, that I was supposed to get out, I was working in Memphis, and we really getting ahead of ourselves.
Well, we're going to come back to
Okay.
that. But you, in other words, you enjoyed what you were doing so much. Okay, so then you were getting dental technician school. You were going to go to school after boot camp. So tell us a little bit about your memories of boot camp, where you went to boot camp, which will be a picture of your graduation program that goes in right here. But tell us where you went to boot camp and what your memories are of that.
Well, I went to boot camp in Bainbridge, Maryland, which probably a lot of young women that are in the service now know nothing about, because they were getting ready to close the facility when I went through. So it was cold, and that was my first trip of being out, away from home. So it was quite an experience. I remember my mother took me down to the recruiting station, and she waited with me while I was being sworn in. And when it got closer to the time to catch that bus to depart, she started getting teary-eyed. I'm going like, oh no, you have to go, or we're both going to be, standing here crying. So I told her, everything was going to be okay, even though I really didn't know that to be a true statement myself. And she left because she did not want me to go. So anyway, getting back to Bainbridge, that was a little stressful time to get used to what military life was going to be about.
So everything
military
was
ways.
different. How many women were in your class? A guess. More than 70? More than 50?
No. Probably close to 50, I would guess.
Did you march everywhere?
We marched everywhere, but I liked that because we would sing cadence, and when you got into the rhythm of it, it was like you didn't seem like you were marching to wherever you had to march. You forgot about that. You picked up the rhythm, and it got to be fun. And we even had 2 girls who were from Hawaii, which was a new experience. I knew nothing about Hawaii, but they were really cool.
So you were living with different people from all over the place. All kinds of ethnicities for the first time.
Right.
And
but they were all around the same age.
Yes.
And all of us, we were just not organized, but we got organized because the women who were commanding our units, they expected perfection, and they were accepting nothing but that.
I see.
So, they showed you how to store your locker, how to make your beds with hospital corners, and just to have that uniform pressed and your shoes spit shine, and just everything perfect.
How
and
was the
if,
food?
And if that didn't happen,
Yeah.
you would go on a scavenger hunt to find your items all over the place.
So they
out of the
threw it.
window, yep, down the hall. They even hid some in the tiles in the ceiling. It was just a mess. But
How did you adapt to the food when you got
The
into
food?
boot camp?
Oh, I think I lost weight before I gained weight, because it's like there's meat and potatoes. It just served different kind of ways, but it was basically meat and potatoes, and sometimes something different. Some chipped beef or something. but you're basically getting the same thing. I'm going like, oh, I don't see anything I want, and then they worked you so hard that I forgot about that. It was just like, I gotta eat something. I'm hungry. So I started picking up weight after that.
So approximately 2 months after you started, 8 weeks or so, you graduated from boot camp.
Right.
And it was during the Vietnam War, so you received the National Defense Medal. And you also received an assignment, a letter assigning you to stay at boot camp.
Right.
Working for the Recruit Training
Yeah.
Command, assisting the Master at Arms. So tell us a little bit about your
I
duties.
didn't mind that so much, because I wanted to do the dental, and so if I wasn't getting the dental, then that was an okay place to be. So I stayed at assisting the Master of Arms, and I would do inspections of the building and helping the girls learn how to run the buffer and to keep the building tip-top shape. And we also did a linen exchange and just doing the security inspections at night.
I see. So, and then this was probably a job assignment just prior to dental tech school starting.
It was.
And you got released eventually. You went to where for dental tech training?
I went to sunny California, San Diego, fun in the sun, and I was just thrilled to be there. And that was also a new experience, because I knew nothing about dental. It was just something that I had picked up that was listed on a piece of paper. And so I got to know all kinds of the dental equipment, what they were used for, how you would sterilize a pack and what had to go in that pack for different procedures, how to take x-rays, how to take models of the teeth. And it was all new to me. So that was great. I was learning something new. I was thrilled. Any kind of education I'm for.
And
So,
how many women were in the room that you were assigned to?
Not very many. There was less than 10. So is that the exact number? I don't know, but they were mostly guys.
You developed some friendships while you were there?
Short term, because I knew that we were going to different places all over the world. They gave you 3 choices and didn't mean that you were going to get one of those 3, but that was just the system that they had. So I don't even know if I picked what I picked. I don't remember if I got it. I wasn't that particular about it, because I knew nothing about anything or any place. So
for now, because you're in the Navy, you're actually seeing more of this country than you've ever seen before.
That's correct.
You've gotten to the West Coast, and
That's
you're
right.
seeing San Diego. What did you do on your off time in San Diego?
Beach, parties, Balboa Park, the San Diego Zoo. I remember that was the best zoo I had ever seen. I thought it was just huge and it was beautiful. But mostly hanging around the ocean front.
Well, you finished dental technician training. You're a seaman. Now you have your rating badge. You're rated. There's a photograph of you that will be inserted here with your seaman stripes. And you had orders to where?
Oh, my first duty station was Millington, Tennessee.
All right.
And I'm going like, Millington, Tennessee. I never heard of that place or anything near it, but let's go. So off we went to Millington. And when I got to Millington, they just let me tour the different departments, and it was a huge building. They had everything just in one building. It had different wings. And so they let me go through oral surgery, the prosthodontic department, and the periodontic. And I'll explain. As oral surgery, that was basically any procedure that didn't require hospitalization.
Yes.
And so I had, again, learned a different set of instruments that they use and how to clean them, how to pack them up for different procedures, and that was very interesting to me. And then they let me go to prosthetics where, I stayed and learned how they make the teeth. I didn't do it. They had, other guys that specialized in that, but I just got to familiarize myself with the procedure. And then when I got to perio, and that had to do with cleaning of the teeth, I was really interested in that. I shadowed the dental hygienist there, and when I finished with her, I'm going like, this is what I want to do.
Yes.
And so I found out what you had to do, what kind of education you needed to do that job. And she told me, she filled me in, and I'm going like, okay, I got to get some night courses in because I'm going to dental school and I'm going to do this. And
so you're planning your civilian occupation now.
Yeah.
And how quickly or how long after you made that decision did you actually start the classes?
It wasn't long. They let me use an electric machine to clean the teeth to do some of the easier courses, and then I was definitely hooked. I'm going like, yes, this is it. And so whenever the next class came up at night school, I went right from there and found out what classes and where you had to go to get those classes, and they didn't count towards your GI Bill. And so after the first one, I was off. It's like, okay, when is the next one? And what do I need to finish these classes to get to dental school? I was on track.
What do you remember about the instructors at the Navy Dental Tech School, as well as instructors when you started attending college classes? Mm-hmm. Did you go into an actual classroom while you were there, or was that later?
No, in both, we were in a class. They had a building that they set aside. I don't know what they used it for in the daytime, but instructors would come in from the outside. Civilian instructors would come in on the base, and they would teach these classes in this particular building.
I see. So they were contracted for civilian dental technicians and or something comparable to it to come in and teach a class, or were they doctors who came in and taught?
Well, at dental school, they were just people who had been in the service, who had a higher rating than most of us in the classroom taking instruction. We were like seaman apprentice. We were, on the lower rung, and they had probably petty officers. And then when we took classes at night, those were people who were actually teaching probably at some college or junior college.
Yes.
In the daytime, and they would just come on base and teach us.
Now, did you complete your active duty Navy time there in Tennessee, or were you transferred elsewhere and you completed your active duty time elsewhere?
I think I re-enlisted again.
You re-enlisted there? Yes.
Yeah.
And what rank had you achieved by the time you re-enlisted? Were you a third or second class petty officer?
I don't remember. I kind of got stuck on E4 for some reason. I didn't know the system that you had to go back and bring the stuff that you had, the information that you had learned previously. You had to bring them. They would always test you on some of that information. I kept studying the information that for the upcoming grade, and so that was just a little thing that you had to learn the hard way. And then once I learned that, and I would always go back and review, and then I was moved right along. But for a while there, I got stuck up going like, I can't figure this out. What's wrong here?
I'm very glad that you're being interviewed. And the reason, too, is for the people who are watching this video. What many civilians in particular don't understand is for every person who's in combat, there's at least 10 people like yourself who support them, maintain their health, feed them, provide supplies, transportation, all the things that go on. There's like 10 people behind every combat person, and you're representative of the people who are in the background, who not only work hard and gain skills that the military needs, but they provide a very important service. You know, keeping people who have to go to combat with good teeth is very important. You know, you can't have a toothache when you're on a combat line.
That's absolutely right, and that's probably why they for one of the first things that they check is wisdom teeth.
Yes.
See if your wisdom teeth are coming in or they're coming in straight, because they don't want you to be off somewhere where you can't get dental help and you got a toothache.
Yes.
It just doesn't work.
Yes, you can't fight the enemy today because your teeth are bothering you. That won't work.
You can't be on the airplane with a toothache.
Yes. So while you were there, you were also seeing patients. So you're like rotating to the different departments. Am I correct?
Right.
And you're seeing patients.
Right.
Do you recall what your normal patient count was each day?
I think it's 8.
About 8 patients a day. That's quite a few. So every time you're seeing these patients, you're gaining additional experience.
Right.
Which also, I assume, helps you with your promotion, because you're not only gaining the knowledge, but the skills necessary to move up the ladder.
Absolutely right.
You re-enlisted.
So by the time you finish, like I finished those rotations,
Yes.
I wasn't just going through for a couple of weeks and then going somewhere else. By the time I finished, they let me out and go to the next rotation. I knew that area pretty well.
You did.
Yeah, and I could have stayed in the area, but I guess, and it was good that that's what their procedure was, but because I learned a lot.
You also have a skill that is very well transferable to civilian life. And you recognize that as well, and you went, I'm going to start the courses and so forth to become a dental hygienist, right, on the outside. Now, you re-enlisted in Tennessee. Did your next active duty assignment was where?
When I finished with Millington, I had the opportunity to go back home, near home.
Yes.
And that was in Selfridge Air National Guard Base, and that's in Mount Clemens, Michigan. And I worked as a dental technician there. I took night courses.
You went to a college there, didn't you?
Right.
Is this where you met your husband?
Oh, no.
Oh, that's later on.
That's later down the line. And so I was still taking night courses, finishing up the last few classes that I needed before I could apply to dental school. And I did that, and some of the people that I work with did my letters of recommendation. The doctors, they were they're like that in the Navy. They're very helpful to anybody getting the education and moving up. And so they were very helpful in that way with me. And so anyway, I got into dental school, which was in Missouri, Kansas City, Missouri, UMKC.
Now this is civilian dental school, correct?
Yes.
So, during all of this time, both in Tennessee and where was that second duty station again? I'm sorry?
Selfridge Air National Guard Base in Mount Clemens, Michigan.
Michigan. You stayed in touch with your family? How did you stay in touch with
how
family?
did I stay in touch with them? Usually by writing letters and saving up my change to use the payphone, standing in line to wait my turn to use the phone. It was back in the day where the operator would come on and she would say, well, it costs X amount for so many minutes. So you put the change in, and then when that time was up, she would come back on and say, if you want more time, you put some more money in, or she would cut you off, and then the next person would come in. So that was the system, and then like every week I was saving my change to do that.
So this must be about the time that you actually enlisted in the reserves. Is this about that time?
Yes, I was.
So what was the decision-making process to go into the reserves? So was it so that you didn't lose all that you had achieved in active duty? Is that why you did that? Or you were thinking long-term retirement?
Not yet, really. I just wasn't ready to stop with the Navy, and it provided extra income for me while I was in school. So I'm going like, well, that's not bad, and I can do it. I can, because it was only 2 weeks out of the year that I had to go another location and drill, and 1 weekend a month. So I did that for many years. And I finished my education in dental school, and that's where I met my husband.
All right.
And we
Was he a student there?
He was a student in studying to be a dentist. He didn't complete it, though his eyesight was too bad to do some of the intricate things that he needed to do, and so he went on to work for Standard Oil. So that which was a switch, but that was a good decision.
Well, it's
for him.
drilling, but not in teeth. You're drilling for oil, right?
So he did very well there. So
Yes.
we stayed married for 5 years, and
you had a
before we
daughter.
parted. I have one daughter. Her name is Stephanie Denise, and she works for a tech company doing technical, what do they call it, service.
IT?
Yeah.
Information technology
Right.
stuff.
Thank you.
So you,
And I have one grandson. He's 6.
and you have a grandson?
Yeah, he's 6.
Oh,
Ethan.
Oh, wow. All right, so you eventually retired from the U.S. Naval Reserves, and there's a photograph going right here of you in your dress blues with your gold chevrons.
Right.
Now, for the benefit of those who don't know about Navy ranks, to have gold chevrons, you have to receive a good conduct medal a minimum of 3 times. So you had a clean service record.
Right.
And you wore proudly the gold chevrons of someone who's earned that medal 3 times. In addition to that, you earned a couple of medals in the reserves as well. You got Naval Reserve Medal and Armed Forces Reserve Medal as part of your duty in the reserves. And you retired fairly recently. What was the date of your retirement?
Oh boy.
I have it here.
Thank you.
May 1, 1993. May 1,
Okay.
1993. And so there's a good conduct medal photo going in as well, so people know what that looks like. But while you were working as a reservist, you also did some help with getting facilities ready for inspection. And you received a commendation letter for doing that.
Yeah, I think that was for children's dental health. I was like the preventative coordinator. So we went into the schools on the base, and we educated the children on dental health. We gave them fluoride and on their teeth and clean their teeth, and
That's
so
outstanding.
that went well.
That's an excellent service to the
Yeah.
community. And of course you also, and this is another photo that goes in, you received your certificate of retirement acknowledging your service and your retirement status. You don't start receiving your retirement pay until I believe you turn 60, is that correct?
That's correct.
Did you get called up at any time to active duty after 1991?
No, I
Oh,
didn't.
you were fortunate.
I didn't. I was ready though, but I did not.
So until you retired in 1991, you had like 1 weekend a month that you had to report. Where did you go to during those active weekends that you had to report?
Well, most of those were at Selfridge Air National Guard Base. So I got to know the group that I drilled with on those weekends very well.
Were they
and
all
they
dental
became-
technicians?
Right, and some of them were prosthetic techs and making the teeth, and some of them, worked in oral surgery. They did, different jobs. Some were just in administrative. So, but we worked well together. We worked for many years together, and they got to be like a family to me. I would go to some of their family events. I got to know their families, and they got to know my family
Yes.
a little bit. So we were very close, just like the people on active duty. You know, the people in Millington that I was close with, or were people who lived in the barracks with me, or who my roommate. And this is a funny story. I had two girls, Ruthie and Deborah, that I went everywhere with. We went to movies, went to parties, we went to, what I enjoyed the most was Sunday brunch, because, you know, we got to sleep in, and I always liked breakfast, and but I never made it to breakfast because I wanted to sleep in. So on Sundays, that brunch was perfect for me. And so we would do Sunday brunch, and just everywhere, traveling together.
You stayed in touch with these ladies after?
I did, because those
That's
two ladies, they married two guys that were best friends. And so all four of them went off to Baltimore, Maryland, and that's where they stayed. So we wrote letters, we called, and we swapped pictures of the family. And so I was in touch with them for many years before we parted.
Now, you never really, when you become a reservist, you never really have a complete separation. It's kind of, you're always going back at least
You're
on
on,
weekends.
you're off,
so
you're on, you're off.
But where
yeah.
were you living when you retired from the reserves?
I retired
In 1993. Yes. Where were you living in 1993 when you retired from the reserves?
Oh, probably still I got back to Michigan.
Yes.
Because I had my daughter and I needed the family support. You know, they were there for me. You know, if I missed a program or something, couldn't make it, they would fill in for me. So I think I was in Michigan.
Now, by this time, were you still working as a dental hygienist, as a civilian?
Working as a civilian hygienist.
And when did you start taking your classes, was it your master's degree?
Right.
When did you start working on that?
When I got off of when I retired, I thought that I wanted to do something different because I had been in dental so long. And so I went back to school and I got my master's in social work. And I worked in social work, counseling the children in foster care. And I stayed with that a short period of time before I went back to dental. And I was a civilian contractor. And
For the Navy, right?
Well, I was also civilian in private practice and later on with the Navy.
I see.
So I worked in the dental area in a lot of different settings. So I tried a lot of things.
What prompted you to move to California, and when did you do that?
Oh, this time?
Yes, because you'd lived out in California for a while.
I know. I've been in and I've been out.
And you went,
back
you know
again.
what? I'm retired from the Navy Reserves. I can go live anywhere I want.
Okay. We're gonna blame that one on my daughter. I think I shouldn't have told her that she was born in California. She was born in Long Beach, and she migrated back. And
Oh, she moved ahead of you.
yeah, she moved ahead of me, and she took my grandson.
Oh.
And it's like, okay, I just got the two of them. This is not going to work long distance. It's
And
like,
you wanted to
I'm
be
coming.
with family.
I'm coming. Yeah, I'm coming.
Yes. Now, did you already line up a job in California before you made the move, or did you make the move first and went, I can get a job, no problem?
No, it wasn't either one of those. I made the move, but it was my grandson. He is like, I wasn't ready to let go of that little guy yet. So it's like, okay, I'll go and I'll do what I have to do to stay. So it wasn't it was emotions on that one.
All right. So you've been completely retired for a while. Do you remember the last job you had and where you worked?
It was as a civilian, and it was in Detroit, and I worked at a dental clinic. Well, no, a dental office, because the doctor had two offices.
Yes.
One in the suburbs and one in the city. So we work part of the week in the city and part of the week in the suburbs. So
And today you live in Southern California and you do volunteer work.
I do.
Where do you volunteer?
At the Veterans Resource Center in Monrovia.
All right. And how do you enjoy that?
I really do. It's something that I really thought I would do someday. I always said, well, when I retire, I'll volunteer. But putting it all together, it was just a thought in my head. So I was really happy that I got a chance to actually follow through on that.
How did your military experience change your life?
It has guided me in a career. It has provided a lot of experience in that field before I actually got started. And when I hit dental school, I was probably ahead of some of the girls that were studying to be dental hygienists because I had the work experience behind me already.
Yes.
So I was more comfortable with seeing patients, more comfortable with doing some of the procedures.
What are the life lessons that you've gained from your military experience?
To always have a plan B, to be ready for those twists and turns in life. And that has helped me so far. And to probably face your fears, because that makes you a stronger person. Because I really didn't know what I was getting into when I went into the Navy, but I'm glad that I took the journey. And it just continues to enter my life and influence my life.
How has military experience changed your views or affected your views about war and about military service?
Military service, I think if you're focused and you have a goal in mind, maybe not a concrete goal, but something you can start developing, shaping, it could work very well for you. But if you don't have any goals, any vision of what you want to do, it will certainly show you what you don't want to do.
Did you do any dental work on anyone who had combat injuries who needed dental work as a result?
Not while I was in the service.
Afterwards?
I think afterwards, and I worked in a facility with the handicapped, and so that was very demanding because you just had to improvise sometimes.
Yes.
But with all that experience behind me, it helped me to be more adaptable, to work outside the box, try different things, just whatever I needed to do to get the job done. So that was a valuable experience that I had.
What message would you want to leave on this video for the people who are probably thinking about doing military service, or becoming a dental technician, or what life experiences do you think you would like to share with the people here?
Well, no matter what field that they go into, no matter what job they have, how small or large it is, there's always something that you can learn from that job that you can take on to your future job, and it gives you experience. So don't discount a job because it's a small one. You can always build on it. It helps you to be more experienced in the job that's coming up in the future, so you should always try to do your best.
Very good. You have any final thoughts for the viewers of this video? Like, what do you think of this project?
Oh, this project was really a brain scrubber. I really had to dig, and I'm clear-headed now. It took me a while to get everything together, but it was a good experience.
Well,
I enjoyed it.
I want to say on behalf of our nation and the people watching this video, thank you for your service, Chief Petty Officer Johnson McCoy. Without you, our nation would have lost a very valuable asset to establishing peace and freedom in our country. And your contribution is very important, and we appreciate you for your service. And thank you for agreeing to do this video for the Library of Congress.
Well, thank you for having me.